Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Watson, and I'm the marketing manager at Greenfield Belser, a Fin Partners company. In today's webinar, we're going to cover how to use data to find buyers online and coax them to your hand. We will walk you through new technologies and new channels of engagement to help drive a rational marketing strategy that delivers concrete results. As we get ready to start, please make sure that all of your phones are muted, as this will prevent any background noises and ensure that everyone can hear the full presentation. Leading today's webinar are Burkey Belser, Managing Partner of Greenfield Belser, and Barry Reicherter, Senior Partner and Director of Insights at Fin Partners. Please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation by chatting them directly into the GoToMeeting chat window. And with that said, I'd like to hand things off to Burkey and Barry, and we will get started with the presentation.
Good morning, everyone. This is Burkey. I really appreciate that you're able to join us this morning. Since the Great Recession, all of us are increasingly concerned with lead generation, the activity that occurs after the brand has been defined and the website launched. Today, we're going to take you to the bleeding edge in the use of technology online to find and nurture clients or customers or members. It's pretty exciting, and we hope it's not overwhelming. But because we have so much to cover, A, and we want to try to tell the story seamlessly, B, we're going to respond to questions at the end. But please do keep them coming, and we'll try to get everybody in. So to get a sense of where we're headed, brand transformation, brand activation are the two categories that we're going to touch on today. The brand transformation is the definition of the brand, and the activation is where we're really headed. This is what this entire presentation is all about, and the technology that makes it work. So the high-tech approach to high-tech marketing results demands that we take control of the customer journey from beginning to end. I know you've all heard or beginning to hear the words customer journey, and what is a customer journey? How do I follow that? How do I even know what it really is? We're going to talk about that today. This also requires software that allows us to find potential clients in their natural habitats online. This is really just simply not possible 6 or 7 years ago, and now those tools are becoming refined, those tools in combination that Barry's going to talk about in detail. We also are using listening tools to give us insight into patterns of engagement, how your buyers or members are engaged online, and then proposes how a data-driven content marketing strategy can deliver clients to your doorstep. So finally, we're going to share some evidence of impressive and transformative results using this technology, and we hope that you'll find this useful in your daily lives. We want to take the long view, start with the long view. So we thought we'd begin with how you see your work, and I'll just run through this. Your first goal, of course, is to set your business goals, then to create strategy and data insights from there. This is from research, whether it's research from the branding point, but Barry's going to get into more detail about how we're using data to develop insights. We then need to develop the brand story, and from that brand story, we're going to define the channels with which to distribute that story or stories. Develop messaging, package the content, and then distribute via the channels that we talked about that we had defined just earlier. From that point, hopefully in this customer journey, we're going to capture and convert the customers, and then ultimately it's rinse and repeat. Measure, analyze, adjust, figure out what we're doing right, what's working, what we're doing wrong, what we should jettison in order to move onto a better, more optimized approach. So that's the long view of how we see this working. I think you probably do as well. We're going to begin with the idea of brand transformation, which is really the challenge of getting noticed and the challenge of having a clear brand. Who are we? What should we be saying about ourselves? And we know that transformative brands earn attention. They do work. So just a few important points about brand communication challenges. And you'll notice our navigation right at the top says brand positioning. Then we'll look at talent presentation, convincing skill sets, and thought leadership. These are the 4 elements of we can use a website here that are the challenges that we have in front of us. in order to communicate clearly with our clients. Research tells us that winning websites make their value proposition clear, tell their story in less than a very short time, understand that 96% of visitors are not ready to buy. We also know that creating videos will increase sales dramatically, and that even a small delay in load time can decrease conversions. So technology plays a role in what we're doing, but let's take a look at an example of a before. This is a small firm in New York. You would have no idea what this firm does. Their value proposition is not even attempted on this page. So with brand positioning and clarity, one learns that in fact, oh my heavens, they're an energy law firm, small law firm, but with powerful experience that leads them to really understand and everything about the energy business. So if you're a client with that need, you can see a dramatic transformation from before to after. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about brand clarity. In terms of for consulting firms, accounting firms, and law firms in particular, we know that every professional is an intellectual asset. Every biography should be a portal into that person. The typical high school headshots that have been long dominated biographies in the past simply don't give enough information to build a relationship. And our goal now is actually to eliminate the arm's length distance between the buyer and seller. That's what really could be said that all marketing is trying to do. But here, in this particular portrait for Ide Bailey, the idea is to meet the person before you actually meet them. By the way, people connect with others in unpredictable ways, so don't go all professional on us. Tell us more about yourself than just your professional self. Remember, understand that with professional relationships, friendship is a risk. So we need to make ourselves look appealing, look like somebody we want to know in order to break down the barriers, the emotional barriers that are naturally there with developing a relationship. Convincing skill sets. Every service area is also a portal that should match the value of the business. One of the things that we've learned is that no one needs a definition of your service, not at all. So if I'm an antitrust practice, please don't tell me what an antitrust practice is. I get it, or I wouldn't be calling you. Tell me that you understand my problems, my industry in particular, trends and vocabulary. Here's a page, the full long page on the right, and a shortened version of it, a close-up in on the left for the agribusiness for Nexon Pruitt. That's got a brief introduction to the practice area, then thought leadership immediately below that before they get into the skills, insights, attorneys, and success stories that relate to that particular practice area. Same thing going on here. Nelson Mullins, site just launched. This is a template page that talks about, there's several features I should point out about the page. It's totally client-centered. There's a label, cybersecurity data breach response, but there's also a benefit headline, and then it talks directly to what the client is seeking to do, and the client then needs to manage these issues, and we have the level of experience and diverse perspectives to handle the issues for you. By the way, notice the box on the right-hand side that says Why Nelson Mullins, which is a wrap-up of the entire page. So the page is designed for the reader to make their own choices about what they're going to read, and understand also that fundamentally we have no readers, we only have scanners. Finally, the thought leadership, which we believe to be the fourth among the top 4 pages on your website, and you'll learn that we'll be driving people to your thought leadership section, to individual landing pages, etc. So the idea of thought leadership is almost 50 years old, beginning with the accounting firms and then taken over by consulting firms, McKinsey and others. But it's still extremely critical and the best way to understand someone's expertise. We're suggesting that everyone aggregate everything into a curated thought leadership section that's much more dramatic than what typically appears to be a Library of Congress card catalog. and then invest not only in content creation, but also its broad distribution to bring buyers by your side. So we're moving on, that was a really mountaintop look at brand transformation, key pages on a website by way of example to show you the elements that are most important from our point of view where marketers need to focus their attention. Now we want to go towards brand activation, getting seen and getting heard in order to create these transformative results. So it's really one of the things that the internet allows us to do is dispense with broadcasting and get involved in narrowcasting. So Barry has said, and this is really should have quote marks around it from him, the internet is your website today. The website is only one point in the universe, the entire universe of your marketing activities, and that it is an important locale, but you also need to understand that it's just one point in a node in the entire system. We've got today a whole set of new brand world problems. We're inundated across channels. We've got new weapons of mass distraction that are delivering too little: websites, emails, blogs, everything under the sun. And yet 90% of CMOs plan to create more content than they have been in the past. But on the other side, only less than 50% of buyers rate content as valuable. There's a huge disconnect here. What do buyers want? Are we delivering really what people want? If we think about it, our campaigns are typically fire ready aimed. They are uninformed by what buyers want. They're late to market, and as a result can be repetitive of competitors' efforts. And worse, deliver quantity over quality. I could say other than that, they're fine. Our mantra is do less, better. Uninspired content drives much of the communication. We call it chatter, not content. And remember an old saw from David Ogilvy, he says, you can't bore people into buying your product or service. And yet most marketers appear to try, as if when we look at this email here that really shouts, delete me now, versus this email that says, remember me always. It's a completely different approach to communications and understanding what sells, what creates engagement. We are also are subject to inadequate analytics. We've got metrics that don't increase leads or improve visibility at all. We've got likes and retweets and the like, as if that were the only thing that was important. But what we recognize is that without a plan, you're just busy, and we're busier than ever. So we have to figure out, what is the right plan? What should we be doing after we've created the brand, achieved clarity, launched our website, set up the technical platform to do better? What should we do next? There's a better way. You can optimize the brand experience of your firm by learning the content of the online conversation, where it occurs, so you can engage your buyers. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Barry, who's going to tell you exactly how to go about doing that.
Thanks, Burkey. With your brand defined, I mean, as Burkey said, the next thing that's really been the focus now is how do you activate it and how do you transform those into results? One of the first things that you want to focus on is first developing a series of your target market personas. And they would be fictional representations of the categories of people that you're trying to reach. So as a sample, a sample persona, we might start off with saying, here's a general counsel regulatory general counsel at a financial services company. We would research all the different aspects of what kinds of information they're looking for. Where do they go for that information? What is the professional kind of career trajectory of them? What are they looking for? What are their personal rewards? And then who are the other people that interact with them or would be part of the decision-making process in order to sign off on having your organization provide them with services? So we dig into and develop these personas, and they might be as simple as the simple entry as what you see here is that this this regulatory GC leads a team of lawyers dedicated to keeping the large company compliant, particularly being up to date about compliance issues that we would have found in the history and the trends of where these people go to for certain information and what they're spending their time on based upon what they follow, what they comment on, what they subscribe to. With that, we then have an idea of where they are operating, where can we target them. This particular persona, we would know, spends time on the FINRA site, because that would be a place where they look for information on a regular basis or frequent. We would look for opportunities where we can get within the slipstream of that content experience through either organically by interacting with their social channels, or even more directly with the sponsorship or advertising opportunities. We know that the FINRA site sells advertising space, and they allow us to be able to be part of that content experience. So to target that persona, we might have a banner ad on an association site such as this with offers for learning more. One thing you'll see recent studies say is that really in the B2B world, when the most successful advertising is the one that helps further the knowledge or the careers of that particular person in business without selling them something first. Sure, are there opportunities to put your hand up and say that they want a service right away and they want to be contacted? They'll just come to your site and do that. But when you're trying to capture them when they're not doing that and have yourself there as a reminder constantly, you'll want to be in the place where you're furthering their knowledge about something. And so in this case, in this scenario here, we might have a webinar or a white paper or an ebook, and you'd go to the places to capture those suspects there when they're not looking for you. When they come to it, we want to engage them right away. Hopefully they will have clicked on the ad and they would come to something called a landing page. And historically, many people would build out these landing page manually. But today you would use software, marketing automation software to be specific, in order to create a whole mix of landing pages and be able to test which ones worked and which ones didn't, what copy was the thing that brought people in, and which is the one that got them to give you a all-important first piece of information about them. Hopefully you'll get a name, an email address, and from that point on, you'll have the option, the permission to engage with them over a period of time. Once they do that, hopefully they'll subscribe. They'll want to hear more from you. They'll subscribe to your newsletter where you can contact them regularly. And after that, you're able to kind of understand when they come back to your site, where they've been before they go to your site, where they might go after, what their exit point was, and what their experience overall is. Plus, understand things like the frequency of how often they have contacted you. There'll be a set of criteria fulfilled that'll help turn them into what would be from a marketing qualified lead, once we've got their contact information, to a sales qualified lead, meaning that now is the time to engage with them on a personal level. So it might, your particular combination of things will be defined by you and working with folks like us to help you define that, but it might be simply as a series of interactions that happen, or a variety of interactions, whether it be that they downloaded 3 or 4 white papers, that they subscribed to it, or that they simply asked to speak to somebody. And at that point, things escalate to where they would be able to talk to one of your folks. And this helps you from a lot of different ways. One of the ways is that when you are having those personal interactions, that you have a much more assured position that those are the ones that you should be focusing on, because through lead scoring that's capable of knowing what they've done, you have elevated the ones that seem to be the most interested. And hopefully they'll become a client of yours. And once they become a client, this is no time to stop that engagement. You want to keep having those interactions with them. You want to keep them engaged, because the most effective marketing vehicle that you have out there is the evangelist that you create from the customers and the clients that you have. And really, tying all this together, you really need some sort of platform to be able to do that. So really how we started with was understanding our personas. And you want to live to where they are. But today's path is not as simple as it once was. It's not just about one type of connection. It's about all the series of interactions that you have, and none of those paths are linear. People do not follow the exact same path on the way to find you and interact with you. It will be a certain combination of things that they turn to for information resources. The trick is being able to piece all those together and paint a complete picture of that. So we start with what is the number one way that most Americans and everybody around the world turns to first whenever they're looking for anything or having their people look for anything, their staff. They're going to turn to a search engine first. 95% of Americans turn to a search engine to find out anything first. Typically, and most of, overwhelming majority of those that are using a search engine are using Google. So we start with that. We start with Google to understand what is the terminology, the volume of the different terms within that terminology that people are using to look for information that's related to what you can offer. This is the demand. This is the topic demand area. And we looked up and we use a process called digital demand mapping to do that. And keyword volume and search engine trends are the things that we use to do that with first. Not only does this help us understand how to operate better in search, but it also helps us refine by knowing the terminology, the vernacular of those different topic areas, not what you use as your proprietary terminology, but what your target audience uses. It allows us to now target and refine what we look at to identify where those conversations are happening online. And how we do that is by looking across those social news and social media conversations for things like channel usage, what things are they using? Are they happening on LinkedIn? Are they happening on Reddit or forums? Or Quora, where people are asking questions? Or Twitter, which is, will be more about kind of broadcast medium for you in this area. So where are they turning to those things? We look at where those topics are being discussed, because overall, one could say where the most users are, the most eyeballs are, but it's maybe not the most relevant eyeballs and users. So we want to be able to target where they are for that particular conversation, and that's what we wind up doing, is coming across both the channel, the sentiment, the people's attitudes, the topical focus, and look at who else are authorities within those conversations besides yourself. They may be competitors, and they may be allies for you down the road, which can also be of assistance. They might be friends or frenemies. And so we look at things like, we use lots of different tools to be able to understand who they are. If you have a target, we can work with you to help you understand where those people are by simply reverse engineering what those people are subscribing to as a group. But we can also look at it from the terms of intent. So when we know the search terms, we're able to know where the channels are that information is occurring, and understand who owns those channels now. Can they be an ally to us, or do we need to be differentiating from them because they're a competitor? And so like-minded audiences can be found in a lot of different places. One of the most productive places is looking for them in both organic channels, paid channels, and those that we would consider to be influencers within this space. Those who have a high reach, meaning simply counting up how many people are following them through their various channels. A high resonance, meaning whenever these people post something, there's a high degree of interaction with them or sharing of their content. And then most importantly, relevance. Are they talking about those keywords? Are they using those keywords that we researched earlier in the process? And so following this methodical plan, we're able to extend beyond just definition. We're out there constantly defining that brand identity by activating it in a relevant way in these channels. And so some of the steps that we use to get there and build this machine is to create that content platform. What are the concepts, the top themes that we would use to be able out there that bring together your brand positioning and what is most important to those that you're trying to reach? You build out the social messaging part of it. So not only things that you want to have archived and ready to go, but the ability to take advantage of market trends or simply the organic activity that's going on out there. You also want to build out your editorial identities. So these would be things like your newsletter, your white papers, the channels that you may want to either have be just represented from your particular main corporate handles, or there might be a reason out there to have a separate identity out there that's dedicated to that particular editorial focus. Those are all things that you can decide, but it's important that you're open to having those out there. And then we can talk about how the channels are, how you can get out to those channels. You're going to want to make sure that you have a adequate digital asset library backed up. This starts with your websites, but it could include things like surveys, which are great to involve publics, but also create more knowledge for those audiences that you're trying to reach. Calculators on how to save, what pathways save things, what the potential impact of a particular issue could be on you. Images, all importantly, video, because Burkey mentioned people don't read, but they will watch a short video or they will scan a page. Advertising plays a key role in this. While organic will help you over the long term, advertising needs to be a component of that too. In fact, there's hardly projects we work on that don't involve both paid and organic content. So understanding where you are first in search is very important. Paid search is one of the most effective, cost-effective means of delivering people with the right intent to your site if managed properly. Paid content is the way to get in front of them when they're not looking for you, but you simply want to be part of that conversation. Media relations is a way to amplify all these assets and the different paid content programs that you have out there. So having those themes out there in an earned fashion to get placed in an article or different types of editorial coverage. And definitely influencers are another fantastic channel because they give you immediate access to their audiences, and that'll help amplify you even further. And so to use PR to amplify the message, that earned media component, you need to create that editorial timeline. That part of that editorial identities aspect that I was talking about, that component that I was talking about, the center of that is the editorial, what is essentially the editorial calendar. And that's going to consist of both what's going on out there in the market, cyclical things, conferences, things that you know are going to be happening over a period of time that you would only know by looking back over a past couple of years worth of trends. Also, what is your calendar internally? What business objectives do you want to do? What initiatives are you putting out there? That gets layered onto it. And then being able to take advantage of what are the trends of news flow as it's happening. And that will allow you to capture media attention because you'll be most relevant to what those journalists are looking for. It also helps you has the added benefit of helping you make a lot of industry connections because this is another trusted channel that your target audiences return to. And so to tie it all together, we talked about platforms, and that's typically going to come in the form of what would be called a marketing automation software. And some of these logos that you see are on the right are representative of some of the market leaders in that area and the different types of information that you have to pull together. They typically consist of knowing what's going on in your website. So you might be using Google Analytics or Omniture. You want to know how that traffic is being delivered to you. So you probably should be advertising on Google AdWords network using paid search or Google Display Network, perhaps. But how are you tying all that together and navigating and channeling and nurturing those people that come to your site, it's going to be with the likes of Oracle Marketing Cloud, Marketo, Adobe, Salesforce Pardot, and HubSpot. These are some of the leading tools out there that'll help you do that. But they all do similar things. They help you easily manage and create tracking codes across your website so that you can understand where and how people are getting and navigating through your website. Landing page development that used to be a manual process is all automated so that the business user can create new landing pages that are tied to the different initiatives that you have, and you'll be able to more accurately report on the success of those landing pages. Email template development. No longer do you, once those initial design templates are set up, creating different forms of emails, whether it be to different personas or different audiences, is relatively easy and all integrated into that thing so that you can, from a cross-channel perspective, understand the relationship between your website, your off-website activities, your advertising, and the email, and see how those are intersecting. The connections of those call to actions can only be done with a platform like this. Form fields, the all-important thing, it's probably the first thing you want to have on your website, is give people a way to be able to contact you. All of that, that is the magic moment where you have now been able to track anonymous traffic that's been tied to your website and a specific person. And once you have that, we're able to connect all the historical anonymous visits that they've had on your website and all visits and interactions going forward. Social channel integration is where you're able to, once you've captured that information, be able to understand how they're interacting and if they're saying something on social. Keeping in touch with what your target audiences are talking about or their activity is hugely important to being able to have a dialogue with them, because you'll understand them better. And then understanding how they got to your website is very important in terms of what terms did they actually use that delivered them to your website. This will help you refine what types of landing pages you should have, what should be the editorial focus of certain things that you produce, content vehicles you produce. But some of the other big benefits that allow you to adjust and optimize is segmentation. Do you treat your email list or your contact list as one big list, or do you have it broken down into different aspects by organization type, or what their particular goals were, or what the source was of how you procured that name in your contact database? All of those things perform better when you're able to segment them, and they're not mutually exclusive. The same people can be resident in lots of different segmentations, but you have to be able to have a platform to be able to do that in. Workflows is another thing that helps you to scale further and is available on these platforms. So that in the scenario that we outlined before with the persona of that general counsel that's interested in compliance issues, we would be able to build a workflow that says when they have come back to this website 3 times and downloaded 3 white papers, it should automatically send an email to one of our partners in the firm to now reach out to them because they have been defined as somebody who's highly active or highly engaged. Now, your definition may be different than that, but creating those workflows ultimately saves a lot of time and actually positions you as a more responsive organization. A/B testing is critical to being able to do content experiments and understand which things are resonating most, which pages, which landing pages, which emails. Being able to do comparisons between the two by testing out new layouts or new formats or new language will be able to help you understand how to perform better. And these are all things that are built into a marketing automation platform. The other big thing, the biggest takeaway is how do we prioritize this? And that's what these platforms and this total approach really helps you do. To be able to understand across that particular persona. So say we have an attorney who's responsible at a pharmaceutical company for regulations concerning the industry. That's a persona that we would build out, and we'd want to understand what was the critical path of interactions that that person had in order to get to our website so that we can convert them. Was our strategy the thing that the insights on where they are paying off? Were we able to understand that it was a display ad followed by a video that they watched that was reinforced by a social ad that had them sign up for an email that then became something that we were able to interact with them on the website? And we would do that across all of your personas out there to understand what the critical path was, but understand also what your cost per acquisition was based upon both the persona and the individual tactical applications that were applied to that. And that's called attribution measurement. And so when we track results, we want to be able to look at some perfect cases that are out there that do some of that.
Great. Now I wanted to share with you some of this. And by the way, I also want to say, don't freak out. There's a lot of stuff you've just heard from Barry that may be new, and it may seem overwhelming, but it is doable. It is affordable. Well, the approach doesn't cost a nickel, but the investment delivers returns, and this is exactly what we want to show you right now. Steptoe & Johnson, a law firm in West Virginia, had no real presence in the shales, and yet at the time this began a few years ago. You're looking at the second brochure, second thought leadership survey. But here's how we've used knowledge and thought leadership to define expertise and create a position for Steptoe in that marketplace. So we did two surveys. The first one was about litigation and what was going on in litigation around the shales, and the second one is around transactions. Both of them had brochures like this that were they folded up, so you can see that on the second image there from the left is the page that's folded up that gives you some sense of how we took the information, created infographics about each, and then ran through the entire brochure. We also had a microsite that talked about the below the surface campaign. There was advertising online, seminars, webinars, and the like were created for the particular for this particular promotion. The result was pretty impressive. The research book is in its 5th printing. There are 300 prospects or leads attended the firm's symposium. 50 media placements were earned. The white paper appeared in various business and industry journals. And the dedicated microsite is one of the firm's most highly trafficked internet properties. And perhaps most importantly, they now have an important presence in the shale oil industry. For another firm in California that was interested in letting people, this is Archer Norris, letting people know that they have, their firm covered all the offices, all major cities in California and places that you would be, if you were doing business in California, either a firm from outside of California doing business in California, or you're looking for a law firm to help you. This research showed, was done by the American Lawyer. We partnered with the American Lawyer to do this and put this in the American Lawyer magazines. This is the white paper, the very brief white paper that resulted from that in both the cover and the back cover of a 4-page insert. When you opened up that insert, you saw California state of mind, what corporate counsel say about doing business in California. And then this graphic contained some of the key findings, obviously, that we felt were most interesting to our buyers. We also advertised this online and used PR to promote it as well. And these ads, GIF ads, showed up in a variety of online properties. We created a microsite for this as well, and the microsite not only talked about the survey, as you can see on the right, but also talked about the firm, and we advertised the site on the firm's website. This website has now been completely revised, but you'll get to see where it's been done there. The results were remarkable as well. They had 67 qualified leads, and by this we don't mean somebody who's kind of maybe ought to be interested, but people who are interested in the firm. The press release viewed 771 times and resulted in nearly 50 inquiries from media outlets, and articles appeared in local and industry publications statewide. Web traffic increased 65% in the month after launch and is up 600% from the year before. So what we're trying to share with you is an approach, a disciplined and thoughtful approach to marketing, sales, and lead generation that delivers results when executed across all of these channels with this level of discipline. So I'd like to thank you for your time today. We hope this has been educational and helpful. Thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us again for today's presentation. We will answer any questions that were asked within the presentation within 24 hours, and we'll also be sharing the recording and slideshow by tomorrow afternoon, so stay tuned for that. Have a great day.